Back in 2015, my younger brother and I, along with a few of his friends, decided to go camping in a dense forest in Vermont. I can't remember the exact name of the forest, but it was one of those places where the trees were so thick that even in daylight, the woods seemed to hold a certain kind of darkness. My brother, being 14 at the time, wanted me to come along because I was older and had more camping experience. I agreed, even though it felt a bit strange to be camping with a bunch of teenage boys. My brother's friends, Jake, Ryan, and Tyler, were all excited about the trip, laughing and chatting as we packed. We brought two tents. My brother insisted that I sleep separately from them, which was fine by me. Along with the usual camping gear like food, water, and tools, I also packed my rifle. I always brought it along on camping trips, maybe out of paranoia or simply for peace of mind, but it made me feel safer out in the wilderness. After a long day of hiking and setting up camp, the boys settled into their tent, their voices becoming a constant murmur of conversation that I could hear clearly from my spot nearby. They talked about typical teenage stuff, girls, school, and eventually Snapchat. My interest was piqued when I heard Jake mention that he didn't have Tyler on Snapchat and asked for his username. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but they were talking loudly enough that it was impossible not to overhear. Tyler gave Jake his Snapchat handle, and for a few minutes, there was silence. Then I heard Tyler's voice, laced with confusion, as he mentioned that some random person had just added him on Snapchat. I put down my book, my attention fully on the conversation now. The other boys encouraged Tyler to add the person back, curious to see who it was. After a few seconds, they were discussing the person's Snapchat score, which was incredibly low, only 7. That's when I started to feel a knot of unease in my stomach. Something didn't feel right, but I kept listening. Apparently, the person had sent Tyler a message saying, "Hi, send me a pic." The boys laughed, whispering among themselves before they all burst into laughter. I could only guess they had sent back some goofy group picture. But then the laughter stopped abruptly, the kind of silence that falls when something is very, very wrong. Suddenly, the boys screamed, loud and terrified. Adrenaline surged through me as I grabbed my rifle and bolted out of my tent, rushing over to theirs. My brother, pale and shaking, told me that someone was outside their tent. Without a second thought, I fired 3 shots into the air, the sound echoing through the trees. I yelled into the darkness, hoping to scare off whoever or whatever was out there. Then I crawled into their tent, where my brother immediately clung to me, his fear palpable. Trying to stay calm, I asked what had happened, though I already knew part of the story from overhearing their conversation. They explained that after Tyler added the random person back, he had sent a group selfie of them as a joke. But the reply they got was anything but funny. The person had sent back a photo of an old, creepy man standing right outside their tent, smiling into the camera. A shiver ran down my spine as they described the image. The idea that someone had been so close, watching us, made my skin crawl. The boys begged me to stay in the tent with them that night, and I didn't hesitate to agree. I kept my rifle close, every sound in the woods outside making me jump. We made it through the night, but the next morning we packed up and left immediately. What was supposed to be a fun weekend with my brother turned into a nightmare that we still talk about to this day. The image of that man standing outside our tent in the dark still haunts my thoughts. If you've made it this far, you're 100% a horror fanatic and we approve. If you love our campfire-themed horror storytelling experience, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I had just started using Snapchat, mostly because my friends kept bugging me about it. Everyone's on Snapchat, they said, so I finally gave in. At first, it was just another app, but soon I got the hang of it. Within a week, my score had already climbed to over 1,000. It was fun, sending snaps, checking out what my friends were up to, and sharing little moments from my day. One afternoon, while I was out shopping, I saw a pair of sneakers that my friend Jenna had been talking about for weeks. I snapped a picture of them and sent it to her, expecting a quick reply. A few minutes passed, and she opened the snap, but didn't reply. That was a bit odd, so I sent her a message in the chat asking, "What do you think?" She opened the message right away, but still didn't reply. I was getting a little frustrated, so I took a selfie with a sad face and captioned it, "Why aren't you answering?" and sent it. This time she replied quickly, but her response sent a chill down my spine. "Where are you?" she asked. I replied, "At home," confused by the question. Her Bitmoji appeared in the chat, showing she was still there, typing. Her next message made my heart skip a beat. "Where is home?" she asked. A sense of dread settled over me. Something was definitely wrong. I replied, "What do you mean?" But I already knew something was very off. Her next message was even more alarming. "What's your address?" I froze, the realization dawning on me that whoever I was talking to wasn't Jenna. I quickly closed the chat and drove straight to her house. When I got there and explained what had happened, she looked shocked and told me that she had lost her phone the day before. Someone must have found it and was now using it to message her contacts. I felt a wave of unease. If someone had her phone, they could see everything, her photos, her contacts, and her Snapchat. I left her house feeling rattled, and as I pulled into my driveway, I checked to make sure I hadn't been followed. My parents were out of town, and my sister was away at college, so I was completely alone. That night, as I lay in bed, I remembered the Snap Map feature and decided to use it to see where Jenna's phone was. When I opened the map, my heart nearly stopped. Her Bitmoji was right on top of mine, inside my house. Panic gripped me. I jumped out of bed, turned off my light, and shut the blinds, suddenly feeling exposed. My mind raced as I tried to remember if I had locked all the doors, but before I could even check, I heard something downstairs. It was faint, but unmistakable. Someone was in the house. My heart pounded in my chest as I tiptoed to my bedroom door and locked it. I grabbed my phone and called 911, my voice shaking as I explained what was happening. The operator told me to stay on the line until the police arrived. As I waited, every creak of the house seemed amplified, my paranoia playing tricks on me. But then I heard something real, the sound of footsteps on the stairs. My breath caught in my throat as I listened, praying that the door would hold. Minutes dragged on like hours, but finally I heard the sound of sirens outside. The footsteps retreated, and when the police arrived, they found no one in the house. It was as if whoever had been there had vanished. The police searched the property and found Jenna's phone in the backyard, hidden under a bush. The screen was cracked, and the battery was still at 60%, meaning whoever had been using it had been there recently. The next day, I returned the phone to Jenna, and my parents came home, bringing a sense of safety with them. But the fear still lingers. From that day on, I keep my Snapchat location private, and I warn everyone else to do the same. Just a week ago, something happened that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I used to go to this small local gym in my hometown in Connecticut, a place called Bear Creek Fitness. It was a quiet gym, never too crowded, and I liked the atmosphere there. One day, I had the misfortune of running into this skinny, awkward-looking guy who seemed way out of place. He was probably around 18, and from the moment I saw him, I had a bad feeling. I was in the middle of my set, headphones in, when I noticed him trying to talk to me. I couldn't hear him over my music, so I took my time finishing my set before finally taking out my headphones to see what he wanted. He started rambling on about how I looked familiar, but it was clear he was just trying to make conversation. Right away, I knew this kid was trying some awkward attempt at making friends, and I wasn't in the mood for it. I assured him that we didn't know each other, but he wouldn't stop talking. I'll spare you the details of the conversation, but eventually, he asked for my Instagram and Snapchat. It was weird, and I felt uncomfortable, but for some reason, I gave them to him instead of just brushing him off. I don't know why I didn't just say I wasn't interested, but I guess I didn't want to be rude. After that, I tried to get back to my workout, making it clear I didn't want to be bothered. He finally seemed to get the message and walked away, but not before saying goodbye at least 3 times. That night, I got a Snapchat notification from someone named Liam. I sighed, already dreading what it might be. I opened the snap and there he was, this kid in a creepy close-up pose, his face way too close to the camera with a half smile on his lips. The text over the image just said, "Hey," with 2 E's. I muttered, What the hell? Under my breath. For context, I'm a guy, and this whole situation was making me increasingly uncomfortable. I decided I'd had enough of this kid. I removed him from my Snapchat and resolved to ignore him if I saw him at the gym again. Not even a minute later, I got another notification. Snapchat from Liam. I waited a few minutes before opening it, hoping he'd get the hint. When I finally did, it was even creepier. This time, he was sitting up on his bed, his expression angry and surprised. The text over the image read, "Why did you remove me?" That was it. I blocked him right then and there, figuring that would be the end of it. I threw my phone onto my desk, feeling a sense of relief that this strange interaction was over. But then, about half an hour later, my phone buzzed again. "Liam added you as a friend," the notification said, followed by a Snapchat from Liam. My heart dropped as I opened the message. It was a picture of my front yard. The text over it said, "Answer me, asshole." Fear gripped me as I realized he must have used the Snap Map to find out where I lived. My mind raced, trying to figure out what to do. I had to check if he was actually outside. Gathering what little courage I had, I opened the window slightly and peeked out. The yard was empty, but that didn't make me feel any better. I shut the window and the blinds, feeling exposed and vulnerable. I was starting to consider calling 911 when I heard the soft tapping on the window. My heart pounded as I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. With one swift motion, I yanked up the blinds and opened the window, grabbing him by the collar and pulling him inside. He yelped in surprise as I punched him in the face hard, a couple of times until he was out cold. My heart was racing as I grabbed my phone and called 911, telling them what had happened. The police arrived within minutes, and when they did, Liam was awake, spewing threats at me, promising he'd come back and kill me. The cops heard everything, and I didn't even have to make a case. They arrested him on the spot. Thankfully, this happened just a couple of days before I moved out of state. The only thing that worries me now is that I don't want to have to make a new Snapchat account. But every time someone new adds me, I can't help but wonder if it's secretly Liam, trying to find me again.